Welcome to the Published and Paid podcast, where we share book, business, leadership, and life lessons in 20 minutes or less to help you build a thought leadership brand and business. My name is Jasmine Womack. I'm a former middle school language arts teacher turned seven-figure entrepreneur, and I am glad that you are here. Let's get started. Welcome back to another episode of the Published and Paid podcast, where we discuss all things publishing your intellectual property through thought leadership books, courses, coaching programs, and getting paid for it, as well as leadership, business, and life lessons. In this episode, I'll be sharing about my experiences with mastering my time management, specifically when you are growing a business and you have a spouse, you have children, you have other responsibilities outside of yourself. Now, this isn't to shun the single people or anything like that. I'll probably do another episode specifically for you. But I know, at least for me, when I started my business and I was working a full-time job, I had a husband, I had small children plus bonus children. And starting a business, there were not a lot of people that could relate to where I was in life. They couldn't relate to the goals that I had, knowing my responsibilities. And so I know that there are others, like there are those of you all who are out there who might be in that same situation where your life mirrors that. And so I needed someone to give me some advice. That's why I'm creating this episode for you. Now, as I said, that's not to say that you won't find value in this episode if you are not married or have children, or if you are married with no children, or if you are living your best life as a single person. I'm just going to be sharing from my personal experiences, having been married nearly 10 years at the time of this recording, and currently with 2 school-age children and 2 young adult bonus children. So like right now, my children are in a very busy stage in life. They are both heavily involved in school and extracurricular activities, and they also follow a pretty rigorous academic track because in addition to their school responsibilities, I also give them accompanying things to do at home, whether it's reading books, whether it's learning about different topics or doing book reports, so on and so forth. And my husband works pretty long hours as well. And honestly, guys, when he comes home, he just wants his wife. He does not want the boss, the CEO. He just wants his wife, Jasmine. And so combine that and having to fulfill those roles and me caring for myself, exercising, making the time for personal grooming, rejuvenation, and sometimes just getting the peace and quiet that I need to make sure that I recharge my battery, it can be a lot. People think that it's easier to run a business when all you have is you to worry about, right? But I'll be honest with you, there honestly just are not that many women keeping it all the way real about how to hold it together when life is busy. And I'm not talking about the women business owners who retire their husbands. I'm not talking about the women business owners whose husbands work in their business or their husbands become house husbands. I'm not talking about them. I'm talking about the women who are working, your husband is working, and you guys are working together to create a wonderful life. And when you have both spouses working 2 different jobs, different sets of interests, different career tracks, busy children, I don't think that anybody's created the blueprint for how to actually build a business when your life looks like that. Wow. Being a really hands-on wife and mom. Let me add that in there. And so my goal in this episode is to provide you with practical tips and strategies to excel in business while also nurturing your family relationships. So here's the thing, like when you have a family, managing a business has its own unique challenges. Managing a business has its own unique challenges when you also have a family, such as you have time constraints. You might only be able to work during specific hours because you've got to get the kids off to school, are there when the kids are come home from school. You have summer breaks and all the things. Emotional bandwidth, having to actually help to manage the emotions of young growing children. And you might have conflicting priorities where you might have things that you really have to get done, but at the same time, your family comes first. So whatever you have going on in your mind or these creative ideas might have to be jotted down in a notebook, or they might have to take a back seat so that you can handle the priorities of your family. And let's be all the way real. In an era where girl bosses are like just championing their work, and in an era where girl bosses, quote unquote girl bosses, right, are championing their businesses and ambition, and where social media is filled, honestly, with what seems like anti-family messages. I know that everyone loves the clips of men and women in love and getting proposed to and all of the butterflies and rainbows, but realistically, that is not everyday life. There is work to be done behind the scenes when you are in marriage and when you are rearing children. And there is value in family success more so than business success. But what's often marketed and promoted is the business success, where it seems like the family is optional, right? The marriage is optional. I remember about a year or two ago, I was on a panel of entrepreneurs on a podcast. And the topic was about blending marriage and family, balancing marriage and family while also running businesses. And I will never forget, I was shocked. I felt like maybe I had come from the old ages or something, because most of the entrepreneurs on that panel, with the exception of myself and maybe one other guest, it was myself and two other people who agreed, but everybody else just talked about how their business came first and they put their families last, how their business came first and they put their spouses last, how their businesses came first and they put their children last. And every single one of those people who said that they were basically fully locked into their businesses, everybody had nannies to take care of their kids. Now, I'm not against a nanny. I'm not against that. I honestly feel like every woman needs some help. I feel like house help goes back to biblical times. If you go back and read Proverbs 31, the Proverbs 31 woman is often held as the high standard, as the beacon which we should all strive towards. But the Proverbs 31 woman was not doing everything by herself. She had house help. She had handmaidens. She had other people there to help her manage the affairs of her business and her house. Go back and read it in detail. So I'm not against having nannies. I'm absolutely for having nannies and having house help. However, I do not believe that nannies should take the place of the parent, because the parent is gone or not available 85% of the time because they're working. At that point, I feel like it can be a toxic situation with having a nanny that is there and present more than the parent is. Parenting and having children come with responsibilities, and some levels are nurturing are best from the actual parents. Oftentimes, kids want their parents to be there. And so, while I'm all for nannies and having house help, I do not believe that nannies should replace the parent. And according to this panel of entrepreneurs, about half of the panel, slightly over half of the panel, said that they put their kids last. They had nannies who took care of their kids. They were there for quote unquote important circumstances like events and things like that. But otherwise, it was the nanny taking care of everything. And I was just shocked, because I know for me personally, I take pride in being a mother, and I take pride in raising my children. I take pride in teaching them life lessons. I take pride in spending time with them. Like, those are some of my personal values. And I feel like me putting that time into them is not only going to help them to grow and develop into well-rounded individuals, but it's also feeding their souls and feeding their spirits and making them feel loved. I will also say that when my children were smaller, it was a little bit easier to run my business because I could sit them in my lap or I could have them in my office playing while I worked. But now I have to pay extra attention to what they're doing. See, I thought that as kids got older, it would get easier. And that was funny. As kids get older, I really learned that you really have to be more hands-on because you got to pay attention to who they're talking to. You got to pay attention to like really what they're watching, what's coming across their feeds, who's in their phones. And of course, I have other things like volunteering at their schools and their extracurricular and social and school activities, which keep me and my husband quite busy. I share all that to say and to give some background because family is a core value of mine. And while it might not be for a lot of people, it is for me, from my marriage to actually being a mom and raising my kids. And it's from that perspective of prioritizing family that I'm talking about mastering your time management. And I'm going to be sharing some of the lessons that I learned along the way because I did not always necessarily have the perspective that I had now. Like at one point in time, I used my business as a way to deal with my disappointments. When I was disappointed, when I was frustrated, when I was upset about something, I didn't communicate, especially if it had to do with my husband, I didn't communicate. I just worked. I internalized it and I worked. And what happened is that I developed an unhealthy relationship with work and with my business in the beginning, which had a negative impact on my marriage. Now, I loved the work that I did and I love the clients that I work with. But to keep it real, I also was using my success as a way to prove to people who didn't believe in me. I told you, like I had people close to me who said, oh, I don't think you can do this. Or I think you're scamming. I think it was a lot of I thoughts from different people. And I wanted to be successful for myself, of course, because that had always been one of my goals. And I had other businesses before this. But of course, I want to say, I told you, don't sit here and hate on me. Don't look on me. I should not have even put that level of energy into it. But 8 years ago, that's where I was. And so what I've had to do over the years is learn how to rebuild a healthy relationship with work and business, but rebuild in a way that is healthy, rebuild in a way that is positive and aligned with the life that I am creating for my future. So one of the first things that you have to do is to establish clear priorities and really identify what truly matters in your life, personally and business-wise. You got to understand that, yes, when it comes to business, you will make short-term sacrifices for long-term gains, and you're going to go through some seasons of late nights and early mornings so that you can focus on your family during your waking hours and work your business before they wake up or after they go to sleep, and maybe even put in some extra on the weekends. It is what it is. Like you might not be able to get up at 7 o'clock in the morning if you want to have the success that you say you want. You might need to get up at 5. You might need to start working out at 4:30 so you can get in a full workout and then work your business a little bit before you wake the kids up. It is what it is, especially if you are building your business while you are working a 9-to-5 job. You are going through a season where you're going to have some late nights, early mornings. Should it be like that every night? No, but you might have certain nights of the week where you're like, okay, this is my late night. Okay, this is my early morning. For me, Saturday mornings was an absolute given. I already used to wake up and go run, but now I absolutely am waking up earlier because I know that the family's sleeping in later. So this will give me more time to do my business. And this will give me more time to still work out and take care of me before the family wakes up. It just is what it is. So some of us don't really like to get uncomfortable, right? Some of us want to stay in a position and in a state that's extremely just chill. But you got to understand that when you are building something that you've never built before, that there's going to be some disruption that takes place, and you've got to embrace that. You also got to understand that communication is key. Okay. Now, I will say that this is still something I'm working on, because me and communicating goes down to me having to internalize my feelings when I was a child. But I will say that, of course, marriage reveals these areas to you, because prior to marriage, I thought I was a great communicator. But I will say that I'm much more communicative now than I was in the beginning of my marriage. So, and shouts out to John, my husband, because he always encourages me to let him know when I'm working on something so that he'll know. I think that sometimes we can assume that people know because we told them. No, told them one time a week ago. They don't remember that. So I tell my husband and my family when I'm in launch. I share the support that I'm going to need from them during that time. I tell them and let them know when I have a class to teach. Like, I teach our coaching classes every Monday evening, but I also remind my family every Monday, hey, I got class tonight. I don't assume that they're going to remember, because you know what? One of the things that I learned is that although I'm married to my husband, he's gone through his day too. He has his challenges too, right? So he might not readily remember, and it's not inconsiderate. It just is what it is, right? So I let my husband, I let my kids know when I have a class to teach, or when I have a meeting and I need to step away for a while. And I also let them know what we'll do upon my completion. I let them know how the success that I'm achieving will benefit them. Here's the thing. Kids don't care anything about making money or financial success. As a parent, they want your time, your love, and attention. Like, when I ask my children, what is it that you love most about me being your parent? What is it that you dislike and that you would like for me to improve upon? And if you had a whole entire day to spend with me, what would you like to do? Almost 9 times out of 10, it never involves money. It's not, I want to go do all these things. It's like, Mom, I just want to spend some time with you. I want to sit down and eat a pizza and watch a movie with you. Or I want to spend the day going window shopping and talking and going out to, and then go out to eat. Kids don't care about all these titles and all this stuff. I honestly feel like social media has created a smoke screen. Like, a lot of people are delusional based on what they've seen on social media about life and business. And when it comes down to it, your kids, your family, they don't care about any of that flashy stuff. They don't care anything about anybody trying to stunt on nobody else. It's, how well are you loving me? Can I love you? Can we spend some time together? They want your time, your love, and attention. Okay? Here's the thing. Open and honest communication with your spouse and your family about your goals and your challenges can foster understanding. It can foster support. And even sometimes they'll figure out ways how they can fill in the gaps and be there for you. But you've got them to allow them to be part of it in a way that makes them comfortable. Okay? Now, if you're trying to figure out some time management strategies that work, okay, you've got to structure your day, because routines are powerful. You've got to time block your work tasks and your family time. You've also got to leverage some tools and resources, like using some productivity apps, maximizing your calendars, and when possible, delegate tasks in your business and household responsibilities. Okay, like I mentioned at the beginning, Proverbs 31 woman, she had house help. So you can't look at hiring a laundry service, hiring a food delivery service, hiring a housekeeper as an expense. It's a growth strategy. Because here's the thing. If you can pay someone else to clean your house for 3 hours while you spend that 3 hours resting, while you spend that 3 hours with your husband or your spouse and your children, while you spend that 3 hours in creative mode working on your business and generating new sales, hey, it's worth it. You can outsource laundry. You can outsource cleaning services. You can hire an organizer to come in and organize those cluttered spaces in your home. You can use Instacart for grocery shopping delivery, or even to order your groceries and you go pick them up if you don't want a stranger coming to drop them off at your house. You can hire a personal assistant for a day to run errands for you and to do things that you need done. These are not luxuries. As a business owner, these are necessities so that you are not burning both ends of the candle, trying to do all of the domestic tasks that someone else can do, because this is what's going to ensure that you can focus on your family without thinking about the 1,000,001 things that you always need to do. Now, again, a portion of your business profits will need to be dedicated to this. So whereas single people may invest their profits, quote unquote, into stocks or whatnot, for me, for several years, I was taking my profits and investing them into my home and into hiring house help and into doing things with my children. It just was what it was. Okay? This is an investment into your home, your peace of mind, and your well-being. And I do believe that there's a mindset shift that needs to occur around this. Okay? Now, here's the thing. You've got to nurture your relationships. Include your spouse in what you're doing. Let them know. Now, if your spouse doesn't want to be included, don't let it dampen you, but don't let it slow you down either. You keep moving anyway. Don't try to convince them. When you're with them, you're with them. When you're in your business, you're in your business. You got to understand that, especially when both you and your spouse are extremely busy, it's not always about the amount of time spent. It's about the quality of their time spent. And this was something I had to work on and am still working on. But when you're with your family, be all in. Put your phone away, disconnect from the work, disconnect from the clients. Business can wait. It's always going to be there. Be all in with your family because you're not going to always get that time back. And even check in with your spouse to see what they need from you. Check in with your children to see what they need from you. Are they happy? Is there anything bothering them? Is there anything that you do that they would like you to improve upon? Having these conversations with your children and even with your spouse can be mind-blowing if you create the space for transparency to occur, if you allow them to share their honest thoughts and feelings without getting defensive. Okay? And of course, you've got to take care of yourself. Now, in doing all of this, it can be very easy to put yourself on the back burner. But I will honestly say that one of the best things that I've done for myself this year was to prioritize myself again, meaning that I come before anyone. And what I mean by that is that I take the time to care for myself first, no matter what. Yes, this requires me to get up early. Recently, I've been getting up at 4:35 a.m., but I work out for 60 to 90 minutes. Again, this is something I haven't done in at least 7 years, but when I tell you, I feel so energized and I'm proud of myself for putting that time, effort, and energy into myself. I also have learned to keep my stress down. And if it's something that I can control that's been stressing me out, then I remove it. I either have a conversation to fix it, or if the situation is not going to be fixed, I remove the stressor. And I do my best to start and end my days around the same time every day. I go to bed without the TV on. You got to understand, you have to take care of you. And when you are establishing simple self-care practices, it's less about what you spend and going to this vacation and going to that vacation spot and doing all this and that. It's less about how much you spend and more about what you do for yourself on a daily basis, including stretch. When was the last time you stretched? When was the last time that you stretched your quadriceps, your hamstrings, your calf muscles, your arms? When was the last time you stretched and held on to your toes and kept your legs straight? When was the last time you stretched for 10 minutes? I guarantee you it'll make you feel so much better, and it's a stress reliever. Your joints will feel better. Prayer and journaling every day. And you know what? The game changer has been saying no more often, especially if my capacity doesn't allow. Like, I no longer stress myself out trying to be at all of the events. Of course, I want people to show up for me, and I'm going to do my best to show up for people. But if I just can't make it happen, or if I'm utterly exhausted, I'm not pressing myself past that threshold. I'm going to say, hey, we can't make it. Case in point, my cousin planned a last minute birthday party for my uncle. I love my uncle. But it was on a Sunday, and I had already RSVP'd for my son to go to his best friend's birthday party. And mind you, this was his best friend from his former school, because we moved and my son didn't have friends. He didn't have friends like that in his new school. So he was really looking forward to this. And I told him, I said, I've already RSVP'd. Y'all are letting me know 6 days beforehand. I know it's last minute, but I've already RSVP'd. I'm not sure that we're going to make it. If we do, it will be there late. They ended up changing it, but the date they changed it to was the weekend before school started for my children. And me and my husband, we had a very swamped 3 weeks in July. Then he was out of town, and then both of us were working kind of overtime. And so we ended up taking the kids shopping on that same day. And where I live, like 45 minutes to an hour away. So I was like, we couldn't do it. I was like, my mom was calling me. My sister was calling me. But I had told them ahead of time. I'm like, I don't know if we're going to make it because we got to take the kids school shopping. And I didn't feel bad. I called my mom, tried to video call her so that I could video everybody. But I hit my uncle up afterwards. And I was like, Unc, I'm so sorry I couldn't be there. I love you, Di. We're trying to get ready for school. We were at the mall for like 4 or 5 hours getting school supplies and all this and that. And just having that conversation, he was like, Jazz, I'm not worried about that. He said, shoot, I didn't even know it was a surprise party. He said, but I thought that I was supposed to meet such and such parents. He was like, it's all good. Again, going back to communication. And after we left the mall, me and my husband went home and crashed. You hear me? I don't even know if I would have been able to make it home that night. I probably would have had to stay over to my mom's house or something. I would have been too tired to drive back home. And so I didn't feel guilty about it, but I was really sad because I love my uncle. So I just called him. And just having that conversation with him cleared the air, cleared my anxiety because he wasn't worried about it. And so I want to encourage you to do that more often. If your capacity does not allow it, don't be afraid to say no. And of course, when it comes to taking care of yourself, make sure that you stay on top of your medical, dental, and self-care techniques, okay? I hope that you have learned something from this and that this was valuable for you. I want to thank you for tuning in. Make sure you follow me on Instagram, YouTube, LinkedIn at the Jasmine Womack, youtube.com/the@ followed by the Jasmine Womack. And if you are truly ready to step into your power, if you're truly ready to step into that next level CEO, I invite you to join us at Published and Paid Live. This is the premiere the only 2-day live event, in-person event for experts ready to transform their $1 million message into a best-selling book and high-ticket coaching program. Definitely get all of the details and reserve your spot at www.publishedandpaidlive.com. Currently, at the time of this recording, we are down to our final 20 general admission tickets, our final 6 VIP tickets, and our final 2 Platinum VIP tickets. I want to see you in the room. Until next time, peace, love, and impact.